I started in an almost totally incidental way. I was teaching a course on the literature of the middle years of life to students who were in their middle years, adult students who with very good degrees, older literature degrees, and the midlife, and it was the 80s. So there was a lot about midlife crisis in the news, male midlife crisis, the red convertible, the going off with the younger woman, and blah, blah, blah. So I wanted to have people read Tolstoy and Joyce and, and some contemporaries. And then my first book arose out of that. But, so I didn't come via gerontology. I came via literature into age studies. And I think that helped me jump into a lot of different fields. That is to say, I then retrained myself as a historian and as an anthropologist. That's still ongoing, and so I don't see. I mean, I'd be happy if more people did midlife studies, but age studies was intended to be a kind of universal field. In other words, you could do childhood and old age. You could do childhood and the midlife. You could do adolescence. And in other words, just think about age as a category at play in various cultural fields, and not limit yourself necessarily to one particular field. We've had childhood studies. We've had gerontology. We've had, midlife studies. I don't think has really expanded tremendously, but it's a different subject, really. I'm not really going back to it very much myself. I mean, I'm getting older. So now I speak as an old woman. That was a tremendous change. The last book, Ending Ageism, or How Not to Shoot Old People, it's the first book in which I speak as an old woman, or as a person who will be considered old in the culture at large, and to whom ageism could be inflicted. That moment of solidarity has just changed that book. And it starts very early. Who is the we of this book? Well, it's this grand coalition that I am, aspiring to create or be part of, but it is also the we of people who can be seen, with their halos of almost white hair, as old, and both as victims and agents of a new anti-ageist movement. I think the study of literature has been immensely important to people in age studies, because one of the things they're looking at, it goes in phases. So, I mean, there's a sort of simple phase where you're just looking for old people in novels and plays and whatnot, and that's kind of repeats what feminism did when it was looking for women and finding them and finding writers and so on. So I think we're a good bit beyond that stage, but we're now looking for stereotypes. We're looking for genres, as Marlene Goldman does. We're looking for the way genres represent characters in later life. There's just an enormous amount of important work to be done in literature. But I have moved a little bit from, I'm still in literature. I still read plays looking for aspects of age that I'm interested in, and ageism more than anything else. But I am looking at culture now more. And culture means, for good or ill, the media. So I read a lot on the internet. I have a Google alert for ageism. And that has been such a powerful and interesting way for me to get information unsought, otherwise unsought. And what's interesting is ageism is by itself an interesting topic. And when I first got the Google alert, I was getting almost nothing. And the Google alert is for all English language literature in the world. In other words, I now get stuff from Hong Kong, I get it from New Zealand, Australia, of course, all the other Commonwealth countries, Africa, any place that has English language material. And it's mostly newspapers. That has multiplied. That number has multiplied. And not only has it multiplied, the word ageism must be used somewhere, but the understanding of ageism is growing. Now, it's still spotty in the sense that it will be 3 examples of job discrimination. It will be 1 example of a good ad. Newspapers, this is not in-depth writing, but it is grist for the mill of a cultural critic to see what is happening in the world and to see the take-up of ageism. So I think that's very exciting. It's exciting in a sort of scholarly way, though, because it's not all good news. That's the downside of what I'm saying. What you're learning more and more is how much difficulty these societies are having dealing with their really deeply rooted ageism. And that's what my last book was about, mostly in the United States, but not entirely. It's my first transnational book. And the trouble we are having in the United States goes very, very deep. In other words, ageism is deep into politics, the clawing back of entitlements. But these are global phenomena. Global entitlements for, well, entitlements is perhaps not the right word, because people have paid into them all their lives when it's a work-related pension. So to claw that back is, it's taking an immense deal of evil slyness in the United States. But it's clear where they're going with this. And every expert that I read in Social Security is worried about it. And I think it's a worry in many of the European countries too. In other words, the intention to dismantle the welfare state, the post-war equilibrium, the post-war means for creating equality and saving the vulnerable from a period when they can no longer work. I think that dismantling is going on more or less, in many countries. I think what has been remarkable to me is how far it's gone. So I'd always want to start there. When we had a conference in Austria recently that you attended, we had 320 people from 150 institutions from 5 continents. And that was just a revelation and it's very good publicity for what we're doing. Now, Steve is right, though, that it's very scattered. And not only is it scattered, but the whole concept of age studies is really not known. Even in my own university, where I have been for 20 years, I'm not in a department exactly, though. I'm in a research center. So, but you could go around the country, and there are courses in aging studies, but there hasn't been the kind of acceptance of age studies in the departments. It is spotty, and individuals turn to it because it just answers such a powerful need for them personally, and also they think for the societies in which they are involved, because I think everybody sees ageism growing, and age studies is one answer to ageism. I mean, you can do age studies in a very academic way. You can decide you have a specific research question, and then you just go after that, and it may not have anything to do with the politics of your country or the politics of old age or even for that matter anti-ageism. So I think the direction is certainly the right direction. But at this rate, it's the way feminists talk in the United States about when we'll have equal parity with men in terms of income, and the year is very far in the future. So I'm saying, oh, well, yes. I mean, when will we have age studies in the academy in a major way? So we have courses in many departments, or we have units in which everybody who does age studies meets together and has that could happen sooner, I think. And you just don't know exactly how it will go. But I'm quite optimistic